Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I see there are no questions on the chat. We'll continue with the topic we were studying, which is knowledge itself. Excuse me. We don't always get what it means to know. But since our whole methodology is about learning, is about thinking, is about studying, is about knowledge, therefore it's very important that we understand what does all this stuff mean. Otherwise, we won't even, we'll be on the wrong path and we won't even know this. That will be like really, really strange if that happens. Isn't it? So, I'm starting again because in case anyone is new and also for everybody to revise, we are the self. We don't know this. The root of all our problems is that we don't know this. This ignorance of the self generates an entire world for us. It creates a whole samsara for us. And when we start doing anything in that samsara, it causes us endless issues. You try anything in this world, and whatever you try, it will cause you endless issues, whether it is marriage, it is business, it is taking up a college degree. I mean, the whole samsara will be created out of it, and out of that samsara, endless issues are created. And in these endless issues, we keep getting the knocks and shocks of life. And that's the story of our life. So what Vedanta says is, when we get these knocks and shocks, when we get all these issues, when we get these challenges, these problems and all, we are constantly trying to make adjustments in the world to solve our problems. This is necessary. It has to be done. You cannot ignore it. If you have a heart attack, you cannot say, I will do nothing about it. You have to. You have to attend to it. If the house is a mess, you cannot say, I have a house, it's in a mess now. What do I do? I'll just go and study Vedanta. No. You'll have to attend to it. Whether it's your health or your relationships or your finances, wherever there's a mess, it has to be attended to. There's no debate over there. However, the warning to all of us is that if your entire concentration is on attending to only that, there is no end to this. There is no end to how clean you can keep the house. There is no end to how healthy you can be. There is no end to anything of it. How educated you can be, how anything, how good your relationship can be. There is just not a, what should I say? It will be a constant struggle, a constant fight until you just give up. And when you give up, it's called old age. That's what old age is. You say, okay, forget it, abhi kaun karega, chodo isko. That's old age. And while you do that, that will sheer exhaustion. How much issues will you deal with? How many problems will you deal with? Whole life is gone and problems are gone. No problem. You say, acha, chodo, jo bhi hai. Old people, they don't even want to take their medicines. They're so fed up. That's where we're all headed. Many people who have got chronic ailments at some stage, they say, forget, I don't want to take it, let me die. Because how much are you going to deal with? So this is what will happen if we are only dealing with that. So Vedanta says, this is not really, it's not incorrect. Okay, so of course, when you read the books and all, they'll say, oh, you're wasting your time, you're doing this, you're doing that. What they mean out of it is that while you have to do these things, you cannot have your entire attention only on that. The root of the problem you have to go back to. And what is the root of the problem? What is the root of the problem?
Ignorance.
Ignorance of the self. If you're not attending to that, you can solve every problem in the world. Life will stay the same. Life will stay the same. It's just one problem after the other. Remember the example of the room. The room is dark. In the dark room, you knock against things. And because you're knocking against those things, you start putting the things correct as much as you can. But no matter how much you put them straight, you still knock into them. And the reason you knock into them is because
Ignorance.
There is darkness.
Because there is darkness, correct? Because it's a dark room. That's why you're knocking into them. So Vedanta says, put on the light. Now, when you put on the light, it doesn't mean that the whole room can continue to be a mess. No, you will be able to clean that room better. And you'll be able to protect yourself from that, from bumping into things. So let us understand knowledge in both these senses. Okay? You gain the knowledge of the self and you learn better how to deal with whatever life has provided you. I mean, everyone has situations, everybody has issues. We just learn how to deal with them better. And we do not believe that if we deal with them better, I will be a happier person. No, not necessarily. Maybe, may not. Not necessarily. So let us attend to both ends of the spectrum. Gaining the knowledge of the self and using that knowledge of the self, using the clarity that we have gained to deal with our life. That's why knowledge is always a direction to action. It's not in the air, oh, we know so many things, or we are not ignorant, we are so smart. It's not about that. It's about what is your life. You can't say, I'm so smart and my life is a mess. Then that doesn't work. Okay, so where had we come? So when we are talking about gaining the knowledge of the self, it is not 0 and 100. So we are all progressing gradually towards gaining more and more of that clarity, more and more of that knowledge, more and more of that growth. So therefore, at every stage of the journey, somebody is better than us and somebody is behind us. Somebody's ahead, somebody's behind, right? So those who are ahead can look back upon us and say, oh, that's not quite correct. And we can look back on those behind us and say, oh, that's not correct. We can all do that. Or we can look ahead of us and say, oh, wow, look at how well that person is doing it. Just as he can look ahead and see, oh, look how well that person is doing it. So this is true for us at every stage of this journey, because knowledge and ignorance are like steps on a ladder. The higher one is knowledge from any point of view, from the point of view of the lower one. So if I'm on step 23, step 24 is knowledge. And step 22 becomes ignorance. So for us, each one of us, knowledge and ignorance become different things. What somebody at 20 has to learn is not what somebody at 40 has to learn, is not what somebody at 70 has to learn. But everyone has to learn until they hit
The self.
Bharat, you are not permitted to answer any question. You are on finger on the lip now. Is anybody else listening? Is anybody else there? I can hear Bharat and see Shilpa. I don't know what is happening with everybody else. Are you all still there? Or knowledge has become too much and you all have given up and gone away? Aditi, I can see you now.
We're all there and listening, Janki ji. We're just too slow, that's all.
Okay. I wish I could see more people so that at least I have some sense that I'm not just talking to myself. I can see. Okay, thank you, Hemant. Okay. Oh, Sangeeta, you're here. I only see you in Sanskrit, so I thought that. Oh, almost the whole Sanskrit class is here today. Okay, so good. I can see so many people now. A big thing. Okay, thank you, Vaishali. Okay, so what were we doing? Varsha is saying, if we may or may not be happy after attending to both, what's my motivation to attend to it? Varsha, where are you, Varsha? Are you still there? Ah, Varsha, okay. Varsha, if we may or may not be happy after attending to both, what's my motivation to attend to it? Can anybody correct the sentence? Now we'll know who was there. Everybody who claimed to be listening can tell me if this sentence is correct. If we may or may not, just the sentence, don't answer the question. Just read the sentence and tell me whether it is correct according to you. If we may or may not be happy after attending to both, what's my motivation to attend to it?
The may,
Huh?
may,
What?
the may part, if we may.
No, that's correct. May or may not. That part is sort of correct, yes.
Hariom ji,
Yes,
if we attend to it, we are going to be happier, a little bit more happier than we were previously, or more satisfied.
not necessarily.
What is my purpose to attend to it?
No, why? And dump the whole thing and go away. You don't even need to attend to it.
I have a
What
desire
is
to
wrong?
know.
Okay, let me tell you. Give me a hint. There
We
is
are
one thing.
happy. We must understand that we are happy as a person. We should know that. Whether to handle it or not is different thing.
Yeah. Okay, don't answer the question. Just in this question, find me the one word which is incorrect. That's all you have to do.
Is it both?
Yes, very good, Akhila. At least now I know one person is listening. Correct. That's not what was said, Varsha. We may or may not be happy, not after attending to both. If you attend to both, you will definitely be happy. We may or may not be happy if we attend to.
Either one.
Of the thing.
No, that's not true either.
If we attend to
What?
only what we are focusing on.
Yes. If we attend only to sorting out the issues of this world, having sorted them out, we may or may not be happy. Even after sorting it out, we may not be happy because once you sort it out, you will find very often in life, all that happens is you created another series of problems. There's this very famous story from Western mythology about the horse and man. So the horse didn't have antlers, and so it used to the deer who had big antlers used to go and bother the horse. He was to poke the horse and trouble it and tease it. And so the horse was fed up with all the problems with the deer and his antler. So he went to man and said, "This deer is bothering me all the time. Help me solve my problem." So man said, "What can I do? I don't have antlers. How am I going to solve your problem? No, I can't fight with him." He said, "No, but you don't have antlers, but you have brains. So you help me solve him. How do I fight this chap? You come and help me." So man said, "Okay, fine. Take me there on your back and I will help you to solve the problem of the deer." The stag who was poking him with his antlers. So Man got on the back of the horse, and the horse took him to the deer, the stag, and man dealt with the stag, and the stag stopped poking the horse with his antlers. But then man never got off the back of that horse. So such is our way of dealing with life's problems, that you solve it. You solve one problem, you only create another one. A bachelor is living alone at home. He has to come home in the evening to an empty house. Nobody even gives him a cup of tea. He has to then make his dinner. Then he has to eat it in front of the television. He is very bored. And everybody also tells him, ऐसे क्या अकेले अकेले जिंदगी बिता रहे हो? आज शादी वादी कर दो, अच्छा होगा ना, अच्छा कोई घर में होगा, कोई खाना बनाएगा, whatever, whatever. They sell him this picture of this wonderful marriage. As soon as he gets married, all his problems will get over, according to them. And he innocently, because he has not done this before, he innocently agrees. Oh yeah, shaadi karni chahiye. So he says he goes out with great difficulty, he manages to find himself a bride, manages somehow to get married, and says, ab sukh chain se jiyunga. Now everybody in this class knows what happened after that. So it's not every solution we get is you create some other issues. The original issues may or may not have gone, meaning she may or may not cook his dinner and may or may not give him tea when he comes home. But even if she does that, a whole host of other issues will get generated out of it. Not that I'm against marriage. I'm Sarthak, please, I'm not against marriage, okay? But please understand, these are not solutions. We may do them or we may not do them, but these solutions generate other issues. Oh, Sarthak has a question. A person has been teaching Vedanta for many years. He has cleared all his doubts. Can it be said that he has knowledge of the way of the self? When you say knowledge, do you mean realizing or just knowing? Realization, Sarthak. Knowing is realization. In philosophy, there is no difference between knowing and doing. Knowing means the wisdom of it. Knowing never means the information of it. So you could be teaching Vedanta for 1 billion years. And Shankaracharya will say about you, Paschanna pichana paschati modaha. Udara nimittam bahukrutavesha. Bahukrutavesha. You have taken on many veshas. You've taken on many disguises. For what? Disguises means disguises of your ignorance. Paschanna pichana paschati modaha.
Ma'am,
Seeing, don't see.
ma'am, when you say knowledge is better than practice, तो मैम knowledge पहले कैसे आ सकती है practice से? मतलब उस context में knowledge of the self तो आखिरी step होता है, तो knowledge practice से पहले कैसे आएगी? Knowledge is better than practice, तो मतलब knowledge तो आखिरी में आती है ना, मतलब ladder के.
Yes, but it was spoken of that day. Do you remember how that was explained? Krishna says this in the Gita. But do you remember how it was explained, those words?
Yes, ma'am, you were explaining that those three are of no use, that abstinence and those three are of no use, austere life, and only knowledge is better than these three. Moderation, you were explaining about those three: abstinence, austere life, and
I thought that was discussed in another class. Okay, so when it says knowledge is better than wisdom, it means that is better than practice. It means knowledge is better than mechanical practice. If you don't know what you're doing and you do, it is a pointless thing. Like you don't know what it means to salute the national flag and you're doing it every day, it's pointless. You don't know what a Mangal Sutra means and you're wearing it, it's pointless. You don't know what the wedding band means and you're wearing it, it's pointless. So knowledge is better than practice means knowledge, understanding what you're doing is better than mechanical practices. That's what that sentence means in that particular context of the Gita, in chapter 12, nowhere else, because he will move the words around. So there, where he says that knowledge is better than practice, because normally nobody will agree to that, right? What is the use of knowing so many things and not doing them? So he puts it in this way to say that better than mechanical practices is an understanding. In that context, that's what he means.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So, where were we? Knowledge from the lower step is knowledge. The same knowledge from a higher step is ignorance. A very important thing to understand. If you understand this, you will not be criticizing people. He's so corrupt, he's so this, he's so that. What is the point of all this stuff? He is what he is. And I was there some time ago. I may not recollect it, it may not be in this Janma, but I was there myself. I was the one taking the bribe. I was the one doing all the criminal activities. I may have no recollection of it, doesn't mean I wasn't doing it. Who knows which Janma I was doing what activity? But this much I know for sure, right? That I've come to any X level because I've already crossed A to X. Otherwise, how do I reach X? That is why a genuinely grown person looks upon the others as mere children. We studied that, right? This beautiful concept. You remember where we studied it?
Adi Shankaras, he treats them as Balaha.
Where in Adi Shankara Deepa is there treating as
No.
Balaha? We studied it actually in the text. I'll tell you, give up everybody. I don't know whether you all attended the lectures. It is quite sad.
Selecting which
because-
poems?
Very good, Reshma. Which poem?
The toy, about that toy.
The toys, yes. Coventry Patmore, yes. The toys. My little son who looked from thoughtful eyes and spoke in quiet grown-up voice. It talks about a parent whose child is misbehaving. His son was misbehaving, so he slaps him, one tight slap and sends him to bed. He says, "Don't you dare behave like that." Sends him to bed. And so that night he philosophizes. He goes up to meet his child again to see what the child is doing, and his tears, his cheeks from his late sobbing wet. His cheeks were still wet with the sobbing. He'd been beaten by his father and sent to bed. So he said his face was still from the late sobbing wet, and besides his bed, he had drawn around him a bottle of bluebells. He collected all the stuff, kept it around his bed. A bottle of bluebells, a French copper coin, all sorts of seashell, all sorts of things he collects around himself to comfort his sad heart, arranged there with careful art to comfort his sad heart. I hope you see the analogy in this. Sad heart, be comforted with collecting all these useless things around us. And then he said, kissing away his tears, I left others of my own. He felt so bad to see his child cry. And then he talked to God and said that when we are no more vexing thee in death, when we are no more, you will remember of what toys we made our joys, how weakly understood thy great commanded good. Then fatherly, not less than I whom thou hast molded from the clay, thou shalt forget thy wrath and say, I will be sorry for your childishness. It's just childish. So when you look behind you, whatever you see over there, it is just childishness. You understand it. It's just immaturity. some wrong concept, some lack of growth makes this person do this. When he grows up, he will not do it. Just as when I grew up, I didn't do this. And I understand also, therefore, from it, those who are ahead of me are looking at me like that. So in Vedanta, at least, there can be no righteous indignation, no getting irritated with all these bad people who are doing all these bad things. It's immaturity to be irritated with it. You understand. You just understand. This is how it is. Another beautiful example, which you have often heard and bears repeating again, is the wonderful example of Newton and his dog, Diamond. Remember Newton and his dog, Diamond? Newton was a great genius. He spent 20 years researching a particular concept. He basically created a lot of science himself. He basically created a lot of the physics himself. So he had done this amazing thinking. And as you know, even today, his laws and his thing, he discovered calculus, he discovered the laws of motion. Almost all of it that we do even today is all based on him. Only person who disrupted that a little bit is Einstein, which he gave something further. And naturally, it will go. But Newton is like God, right, as far as physics goes. And so he had done research in a subject and written a nice thick tome about it. Remember, there was no computers and all this. It was all handwritten over 20 years of work. And all this predated electricity also. So, and in his study once, he went out of his study for some reason with the book there and his candle on because he was working on it. And his dog Diamond came into the study, knocked the candle over that book, and the whole book went up in flames. 20 years of original research has just gone. This is not like he could read it somewhere else. He had just discovered this over a period of time. And then he said his famous words, "You little know, Diamond, what you have done. You little know, Diamond, what you have done. Your one naughtiness has actually set humanity back for so long, because now that whole thing has to be recreated. You little know, Diamond, what you have done." And isn't that true? You little understand how much destruction people with little brains, if you remember in the Gita we studied, people with little brains can bring about so much destruction. How much destruction they can bring about. Amazing. Fascinating. And they little understand what they are doing. If they understood any of it, they wouldn't be doing this. What destruction did Ravana bring? What destruction did Duryodhana bring? What destruction is being brought around today? You see the stories of in Afghanistan, anywhere. Horrible, horrible stuff. Feel very sympathetic with the people who have to suffer and also with the people who are doing it. You little know, Diamond, what you have done. So when you're on the higher step, you become incapable of disliking those who are lower. Can't do it. You understand their limitation. Completely charitable to that limitation. So what is knowledge? The last step is realization. But along the whole thing, it's all relative. At a higher step, it will be called knowledge. If it's at a lower step, it will be called ignorance. The whole question is, where are you looking at it from? Any step can be called knowledge. Any step can be called ignorance. From the point of view of the self, everything is ignorance. Because everything is lower. And the point of view of very, very low, everything above will become knowledge. So we are all somewhere. Some are above us, some are below us. We are all somewhere. The important thing is that we
grow.
take the next step. That's our job in life. Just take the next step. Move up. That's all you have to do. Don't worry who's above, who's below, nothing. Don't worry who is doing that. Oh, how come he's allowed to do and I'm not allowed to do? Don't worry about it. Your step is your job in life, just to take yourself one level up. And that's your job for the rest of your life. Not for today or tomorrow, for the rest of our life. We just concentrate on taking that one step forward. Okay, clear? Okay, so.
Janki ji,
Yes, Bharat.
one question. When we speak about focusing our attention on both the points, problem solving and moving to the self, those goal-oriented people who have lost sight of the self seem to be doing all right. So, how do we understand that?
They seem to be doing all right with reference to what they're doing, but they won't be doing all right with reference to everything else. So a Wimbledon champion, he's focused all his attention on Wimbledon championship. He's become very good. He's become the Wimbledon champion, but that will not give him a good relationship or even look after his finances or anything. So whatever he focuses on, he will do well in, obviously, because he's focused on it. But that does not guarantee across the board.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we are fine up to this point. Who will read the next paragraph?
Janki ji, I can read.
Please go ahead.
The ignorance of self generates endless desires. The desires develop.
Sorry, we did that.
You did that one? Okay, sorry. Knowledge and ignorance differ in degree, not in kind. The higher rung of the ladder is knowledge, while the lower is ignorance. They are relative terms like light and darkness. Light and darkness are also different in degree, not in kind. The electric light is bright compared to the dullness of candlelight. The same electric light becomes dull apropos the brilliance of sunlight. Light and darkness, knowledge and ignorance, therefore are like the positive and negative terms used in mathematics. Along the x-axis or y-axis, a point is said to be positive with reference to its negative side. The same point becomes negative with reference to its positive side. Similarly, the knowledge you possess is considered as knowledge only with reference to the lower level of knowledge. The same would be viewed as ignorance with the reference to the higher level of knowledge. Therefore, all knowledge acquired in the world falls in the realm of ignorance, vis-a-vis the absolute knowledge of the self. Thus, when you attain the state of self-realization, your ignorance is completely wiped out. You become totally free from desire, suffering, and sorrow. You attain the abode of everlasting bliss. Hence, the reality discovered in your Supreme Self is said to be absolute existence, knowledge, bliss. To summarize, what he's saying here is just what we discussed, that from the point of the self, everything is ignorance, but ignorance, it depends on where you are to see whether whether from a lower, when you go higher, it's knowledge, and from a higher, if you look down, it's ignorance. But when you do attain the state of self-realization, all ignorance is wiped out, and you're just you find that that you find eternal bliss.
Yeah, good, Ekta. Now, can you say all that in one sentence? Actually, say it in 3 words.
Self-realization ends ignorance.
Okay, but it doesn't fully capture, it only partially captures. So use 5 words and summarize this paragraph. 5 words.
May I try?
Go ahead.
Know thyself.
What is the main idea of this paragraph?
Can I?
No, Bharat. Last we'll come to you. Anyone else wants to try?
Can I try?
Yes, sure.
The worldly knowledge is all ignorance once we realize the self, which leads us to the supreme bliss. That is the ultimate knowledge.
Priti, 5 words.
5 words.
Only 5 words. Yes.
Can
I say knowledge and ignorance are relative?
Knowledge and ignorance are relative. Very good, Tinky. You're the warmest so far. Right, Ruchita?
Ignorance ends on the way of growth to self-realization.
Ignorance ends on the way to growth on self-realization. That's 9 words. Okay, close. Anyone else wants to try? 5 words. Vedanta is learning precision of thought. If we don't have precision of thought, how are we going to do it?
Okay, can I try again?
Knowledge is bliss.
Sorry? Ooh, I can't hear now. Can you all switch your videos on so that I can see you and then I know who is wanting to say?
Ma'am, Karan, can I try?
Yeah, go ahead, Karan.
5 words. Knowledge frees us from suffering.
Knowledge frees us from suffering. No. Varsha?
Knowledge is bliss. It would have been.
No. Who else? Sangeeta?
Janki, may I try?
Yeah, 1 second, Omkar. I'll come to you. Let's finish all those who raised their hands so far. Sangeeta, you're muted.
Janki ma'am, may I try?
1 second, Tejas. I'll just come to you. Sangeeta, are you
No, knowledge from a higher level is ignorance.
Knowledge from a higher level is ignorance. 7 words, Sangeeta. But okay. Yeah, Rujuta.
I did say to you.
Oh, you finished. Okay.
I
Arun
finished,
Sinha.
9 words.
Pass.
Passed. Okay. Priti Mullick, you finished?
No, I want to say again. Try again.
Please do.
Knowledge of supreme self is ultimate.
Knowledge of supreme self is ultimate. 6 words, but not correct. Then we had Omkar.
Knowledge is ignorance until self-realization.
Knowledge is ignorance. Knowledge is ignorance until self-realization. Yeah, very good. You've been the closest so far. Tejas?
May I, Janki ji?
Yeah, Suman, 1 second. Tejas is just telling us. Tejas, go ahead.
Knowledge is removal of ignorance.
Knowledge is removal of ignorance. Okay. Yes, Suman?
Gain knowledge towards self-realization.
Okay, Bhavna. Knowledge and ignorance is relative. Yes, that is correct. Up to a point. But it's not the entire thing. Many of you
Can I
are coming
try?
closer to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Self-realization is ignorance.
No, this is incorrect. Self-realization cannot be ignorance. Okay, Bharat, what have you got to say?
I wanted to say that gain knowledge of the self.
No. Okay, so here it is in 5 words. I think Omkar seems to have come closest, though Bhavna is saying quite close, and somebody else also was very close, right? Tinky was also somewhat close. Okay, so here it is. Please, let's all learn precision. We must be like an accordion. It can open up and it can close. It can open up and it can close. You can do both sides. So this paragraph in 5 words is as follows. Knowledge is relative until self-realization. You know, somebody said knowledge is ultimate. Who said that about knowledge being ultimate? The only ultimate knowledge is self-realization. Everything else is just relative. To say I know more than you or you know more than me is just relative. It's just relative degrees. It's no big deal. The real thing is self-realization. So, this paragraph talks about how knowledge is relative. When you understand that, so many things are sorted out in our lives. There's no arrogance about knowledge. There is no looking down on people who with less knowledge. There is not being in awe of people with more knowledge. Lots of things are sorted out. Just understand this. Knowledge is relative until self-realization. It's not... it's, you know, this is a great thing about knowledge is you understand the base concept. You got sorted out on a million issues after that. But understanding that base concept is kaise hota hai, God alone knows. Whoever gets it, gets it. Bhagavad Gita also says, ya pashyati sa pashyati. Who sees it, sees it. Dikh raha hai to dekho, nahi dikh raha hai to ruko. After some time dikhega. Okay, all right. So this para is clear. Who will read the next para? Happen no volunteers for reading. I hope everybody has got the book because if you're doing any serious study, the book is necessary, right? So please make sure you have the book with you. I think things have opened out a bit and now it's easier. You can order it online, I assume, and I think you can get it from Bharat if you are in Mumbai or close by to Bandra, Santa Cruz, Khar, somewhere around there. Whatever, please get the book because we don't have to. You can also get it on Kindle or whatever else. But please do this in a systematic manner because you get the benefit of Vedanta when we ourselves do it in a systematic manner, right? So who's reading this paragraph?
Shall I read, Janki ji?
Please do.
The infinite state of existence, knowledge, bliss is your essential being, your intrinsic nature, yourself, Atman, which you constantly refer to as I. I am a child, I am a boy, I am a man, I am an old man. I perceive, I feel, I think. I am the person in the waking state. I am the person in the dream. I am the person in sleep. The I never leaves you. The self has been with you forever. You can never lose it. Nevertheless, you believe you have lost yourself. You feel bound by the limitation of your body, mind, and intellect, and persecuted by the ever-changing world. This is an erroneous belief. The truth remains that you are eternally free, never bound, never harassed by the world. All the bondage and harassment you go through are as imaginary as that of your dream. You may dream that you are suffering from penury and starvation, but it is all your imagination, brought about by the ignorance of your waking state. So to summarize in 5 words,
you can do 1 word if you want. There's nothing about 5. Do 5, do 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever you like. Do 7 if you like. But keep it as brief as possible, but include every point.
When I use the word, so I, which I believe to be my personality, is the Atman. And we have forgotten this. We identify with the personality, which is why we go through all our emotions and our thoughts of being harassed and disturbed and being bound. But it's all brought about by our ignorance. So this world is a dream and the real waking state is the Atman, but we are taking the dream to be the real world.
Now, can you put all this in? Very good. Yes, you summarized it. Now, can you make it a precis, like fewest possible words you can get the idea in?
Okay, so
Ma'am, can
I am the Atman, not the body, mind, and intellect. Knowing this releases me from bondage.
Okay.
Or I should say realizing this. I know it, but I haven't realized. Realizing this releases me from the bondage of suffering and attachment and suffering.
Okay. Somebody else wanted to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Who is this now? I can't see you, so I don't know. Is it
Ma'am.
Sarthak?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can you put this back? Yeah. Yes, Sarthak, go ahead.
Ma'am, the real I is ever free. The real I is ever free.
Okay. Shivani, realizing self free us from all the pleasure and pain. Okay.
Can I say?
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Know your infinitism. Infinism.
Okay. So let's see, what's our main idea over here? Our main idea over here is that the self has never left us. This is our main idea. Now, what is the nature of the self? The nature of the self is freedom, is happiness, right? That means your freedom has never left you. Your bondage is not there. Your happiness has not left you. Your suffering is not there. And yet, while we are here, we feel bound. We feel like we are suffering. So what is he drawing our attention to? That yourself has never left you. You are always free. You are free right now. While you claim bondage, you're free. While you claim sorrow, you're happy. This is all pretty mind-boggling stuff if you start to think about it. How can anybody tell me when I'm on my bed and my pillow is dripping wet because I've sobbed so much? I have to now hang it up to dry on the clothesline. So much I have cried. And someone tells you, you know what, you're not even unhappy. You're not bound by the situation. You're not unhappy with the situation. How to believe that? It's impossible, right? Like, impossible. What are you saying? Do you even know what you're saying? Is this gibberish you're talking? Don't you feel like saying that? Yet, it can be proved to us by our own experiences. That's what one day will hit you. My own experience can prove this is true. If I was in bed, weeping and sobbing, because in the dream, somebody had just died. Okay, in my dream, somebody died. And I'm crying because this was the love of my life. And somebody from the waking world had come in and said, look, there's nothing happened. This is just a dream. You are not unhappy. You're very comfortably sleeping in your air-conditioned bed. Your spouse is next to you, nothing has happened, everything is as before. Will you buy that? You'll never buy that. Because why would you ever buy that? Why would you ever agree to that?
Because you are still in dream state. Only when you wake up will you realize it.
Because that is your experience. How can you listen to a person who's denying you your experience? You won't listen to it. Suppose I tell you now, you're not in the Vedanta Treatise class, will you believe me? You'll say, not in register. Kya pagalpanti hai? Can't. Because, why can't you believe me? Suppose I tell you you're not listening to the Vedanta Treatise class. You won't believe me. Why won't you believe me?
Because my perception is otherwise.
Because my experience, I'm going through it. What are you telling me I'm not going through it for? How do you know what I'm doing and not doing? You feel like that, no? So, I hope you can get that. I can be weeping and so unhappy, experiencing the full loss of something in my dream, when actually I haven't lost it at all. I mean, in the waking world, I haven't lost it at all. But in my dream, I feel that I've lost it. And I'm weeping the loss. And I'm crying the loss. And I'm experiencing the loss fully. I mean, there's no doubt in me about it. And someone tells you, Arey Baba, you're the waker. You are sleeping at home nicely in bed. You've not lost anything. Can you believe them? And yet what they are telling you is true. This is what has to hit us. So it is quite possible that I'm going through the experience. I'm going through all the pain. Without a doubt, I'm going through all the pain. And yet it is possible. This is just a dream. And I'm not. And whatever I'm crying over, there was nothing to cry about. Possible? That's why that example of the dream is very important. Because then you start getting what he's trying to say. Otherwise, you just reject it. But we have to get to that concept that just because I am experiencing something doesn't necessarily mean that that is so. A child sees a rope, believes it to be a snake, is terrified. He's going through the experience of seeing a snake. He's not just saying, I see a snake. He's terrified. He's horripilating. He's breathing fast. He's screaming. He's trying to run away from there. He's going through the whole experience, the 3D experience of this. But there is no snake there. It's only a rope. And that may be what's happening to us. We're experiencing something fully, totally, thoroughly, crying with it, laughing with it, frightened of it, whatever, and still be completely wrong. This is a possibility. I'm not saying it is, I'm saying that the possibility exists. And if that possibility exists, if you can figure out that that possibility exists, when you do go through all of this, you will not go through it. You will go through it because you are in that condition. You will always go through everything with a little bit of a question mark. And when you go through everything with a little bit of a question mark, just a little bit, you have become a philosopher. You have learned to question what for you seems completely correct. That is the beginning of philosophy. You can question it when it appears correct. When you have no reason to doubt it, but you can question it. That's a philosophy. Not that you go to the other extreme and say it doesn't exist. Then that's if you go to the other extreme and say it doesn't exist, then that is called
ignorance.
Tamas.
It's called what, Shilpa? I didn't hear you.
Tamas.
Tamas, you said?
Yes.
Illusion. Illusion.
It's called insanity. Arey, somebody else, something has just happened, I'm saying it didn't happen, that means I'm insane. Something is wrong here. Okay, I'm saying Corona to hua hi nahi, means you're insane. Right? But if you have a question mark, whatever you think about Corona, acha hua, bura hua, whatever you think, but there's a little question mark. Is it really? You become philosopher. You're able to take one step back from what you are experiencing. Just one step back. And look at it with another eye. Take a step back. You're so convinced that the person opposite you is such a horrible fellow, but you can take one step back and say, is it? You're so convinced that the person opposite you is a fantastic fellow, you can take a step back and say, is it? Is it? A sort of healthy skepticism towards things. Healthy skepticism, not an unhealthy one. It's a thin line. That's why the path is known as the
Razor's edge.
Razor's edge. What a construct. Razor's edge. Go this way, you're wrong. Go that way, you're wrong. Very good. Call the razor's edge. AKHILA says that what the Socrates paradox, I know that I know nothing, also means. In some sense, yes. What Socrates drew our attention to is the fact that everything about us is an ignorance. So he said, I am the wisest man. You know the story, right? The story says that the Delphic oracle declared that Socrates was the wisest person. So somebody went and told Socrates, you know, the oracle says you are the wisest person. So Socrates said, me, wisest person? So he takes a chakkar of the known world, at that time known world, to him, and comes back and says, okay, I found that I'm the wisest person. So people said, Arey, how come you found out you were the wisest person? He said, I know nothing. I've understood that. When I went all over the place, I found nobody else also knows anything. But I found out I know nothing. Therefore, I'm the wisest person. I know that I know nothing. So when you realize you don't know the absolute truth, you don't know what the absolute truth is. This is philosophy. See, is it really? On what basis do we say that? How do we know that? Why am I so ready to believe things? Am I not ready to? Why not examine things rather than believe them? Everybody says, why should we believe Vedanta? Who told you to believe Vedanta? Examine it, please. Just examine it. Don't believe it. Nothing to believe over here. Why would I feel compassion or feel anything if this knowledge is stabilized in me? The real you and I are always unaffected. You would feel compassion, Sarthak, because you understand the other person and not understood it. It's something like if you have a 3-year-old child in the house and the 3-year-old child is crying because his little 5 rupee toy broke, do you not feel compassion? You feel sad, so sad that this child is sad. That's compassion. But if you sit down and cry with the child, that means you are also a child. You understand that there's no inherent loss that has taken place. But you also understand that this person is suffering. And so your heart goes out to that person. Why would it not? You don't want people to suffer. So if you had knowledge stabilized in you, anybody who has knowledge stabilized in you is always full of compassion. It's always full of understanding. It's always full of willing to give a helping hand. It's willing to give a shoulder to cry on. It's always willing for all these things. Because they know that while nothing has really happened, you are going through the loss of something that has happened. And so therefore, I am with you in your pain. Okay.
Harimdi, I have a small question. Like you said, we should rather examine rather than believing. So suppose, how is a child supposed to examine who is his father? The mother tells him that he is, so how will he examine it? He has to believe it.
Well, he has to grow up and then examination starts. You don't examine anything as a child. You must have the brains to examine, right? So if you examine before having the brains, then you will have all sorts of problems. So you must have a tool of examination.
I meant that, the Vishwas, that belief has to be there, even when we are towards the journey of self-realization.
Yes, correct. You have the belief that this journey will give you the truth, but you have to examine the journey, no? You undertook the journey because you had a belief that it will help. But now that you've undertaken the journey, examine.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Janki.
Hari Om, Janki ji. Thank you.